Welcome to season 2 of Rabbit Holes with Aaron, where we haven't made any drastic changes, but we believe we get better with time. So enjoy the wide constellation of guests that I have on this show. Enjoy our conversations. Hopefully, you get some nuggets and you can learn and grow and become a better person. Thanks for listening. Welcome to Rabbit Holes with Aaron. I'm Aaron, and today with me I have as a guest Stacey, and I would introduce her by her last name, but it's tricky. Helshey Terrell. There we go. How did I do?
Close, very close.
Oh,
Hi, C. Terrell.
Hi C.
There,
That's an I. Hi C
yeah,
Terrell. Okay. And what I've come to know about her so far is that she helps corporate people make the transition to being entrepreneurs. And I'm sure she does a whole lot of other things as well. But thank you for joining us today, Stacy.
it's great to be here. Thank you, Aaron.
Yeah, and I was thinking about a question that I usually ask is what's something new and exciting for you?
Yeah, well, 2026 has been. I made a resolution to try to get out of my comfort zone more,
Okay.
and so I've been guesting on podcasts, which is kind of can be a little scary. Fun and exciting getting out of that comfort zone. And it's been really, really great. I've met some awesome people and made new friends, making some new client connections. So that all encourages me to keep going, maybe even further
Yeah,
outside.
absolutely. Wow. Yeah, I could just speak forever about the benefits of being a guest for people's podcasts because I have a podcast. And so, yeah, it was so
It,
nice.
it is a great way to meet people and make some pretty wild connections. I think it's so lovely this day and age to be able to connect with people all over the country,
Yeah,
all over the world, and have these conversations that we might not have had 10,
yeah.
15, 20 years ago.
Well, and that's really what this podcast is all about. It's about hearing strangers have conversations about what topics that are interesting to them,
Yeah,
you know.
yeah, it's great.
And, I want to do a shout out real quick to PVA who gave me an entrepreneur coach. It didn't help me from being corporate to entrepreneur like you, but it helped me from being a Paralyzed Veterans of America, helped me transition to entrepreneurship. And, she helps me with a lot of stuff with marketing. And so it's like this
Mhm.
brainstorming person that calls me once a week and gives me good idea, or we come up with good ideas together.
Yeah, yeah.
So,
Yeah, I think sometimes that is sometimes we think like, oh, I don't need a coach, right? Like I could
yeah.
read an article or I could listen to some things or read a book. But there is some magic about having another person to bounce
Oh,
things
yeah.
off of, ask you questions. I think too,
Yeah.
sometimes I hear from my clients, even having more of a stranger ask you questions or they ask you different questions than your family members or your close friends. And you can get into some really insightful aha moments with a coach. Yeah, it
Yeah.
is pretty cool.
The word that comes to mind for me, and maybe I don't know how many rabbit holes we've even done so far, come up with, but like the thought word is perspective. Like
Yeah.
another perspective is
Hmm.
always so powerful in
Yeah.
getting a job, sure, in life, in romance, in parenting, all the phases of
Hmm.
life, another perspective, which I think it's a blessing You can't do it any other way. We're born into families, but like you pop out and you've got all these other perspectives
Yeah.
from your great
Yeah. Right.
grandfather that's like, you'll never amount to anything or whatever. Even the most negative perspective. Sorry, not maybe not a good example, but like they steer you and they give you other perspectives. Like,
Hmm.
well, maybe I am not the chosen Messiah of all time. Well, maybe I'm just kind of more like a human and I have weaknesses and strengths. So
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
what do you think about that?
Yeah, I absolutely agree. Well, and I think I recently read about, I've been thinking a lot about kind of this idea of having mentors or role models that you don't know, that maybe are historic
Mm,
figures in your, or in your family, or these historic figures that you find these bits of inspiration. And I think for me, like hearing stories about my great grandmother, or things that she did when she was young, like that is really, can be inspiring and informative to, like, okay,
yeah,
what does that tell me 100 years later, what I need to get out and do, or believe in myself, or go ahead and try. That is really, that's really fun. And I think sometimes, yeah, rubbing up against another person, you get some of those stories that you wouldn't otherwise have in your life, besides the
yeah.
perspectives. Yeah.
Well, and I like that you brought up stories. That makes me, well, and what we're sharing about family, it brought something to mind. I ran into and discovered a great uncle of mine.
Hmm.
My my paternal grandmother for me, her younger brother. I ran into him. I found out about him from an uncle, still alive. Um, Found all this history about the Kilmer side of my family.
Hmm.
Kilmer, they came from Germany, found out all this stuff, these heroic tales. They even made a book that you can buy on Amazon that says where all the Kilmers went to. I mean, they're overachievers. They came from Germany, I guess. But but yeah, to find this whole storeroom of stories
Yeah.
that I have never even heard in my life, and to just sit with my great uncle for hours and hours, find out what
Mhm.
his childhood was like,
Yeah.
find out what toys he got for Christmas,
Right.
you know?
Right. Yeah. I love that. I love that. I was recently, my parents live in Southern California, and I was out for a visit, and um, my mom had found um, these old pictures in very old picture frames, in a
Oh,
trunk that my grandmother had given her. And she had talked with her aunt about it like 50 years ago and had written down things about it. And she rediscovered this. And what we were looking at were these photographs of very old aunt and uncle, but the picture frames themselves had gone all the way around the South America, from the East Coast all the way up to California. And so even just
wow.
holding this, like these relics that, like, oh my gosh, this traveled all the way around the horn, to get to California before the Panama Canal was a thing. I mean, it is impactful
Yeah,
to hear those stories, but to also have some of those artifacts
yeah,
to lay your hands on and think about, who were these
yeah,
people that it was so important that she put it in her bag to go to California, you know? Yeah.
yeah. We find a little bit of their ex passion for exploration inside of us, don't
Yeah.
we?
Yeah. Yes. Right? Yeah.
Yeah.
Terrifying though. I don't know that I want to sail all the way around the Cape to in the in the 1800s to go to California. But yeah, very admirable.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah, stories are really great with props. I was thinking about like generational momentum.
Mm,
Not only about your family, they were moving, right? And that's aunt and uncle, from your ancient history are moving and they're sailing around, they're trying to get somewhere. And then, now we're here, at least geographically, wherever we are, but we're still trying to get somewhere.
yeah.
And maybe that, carries on in us in some way. What do you think? I know I'm getting a little crazy, but
I think you're right on. It's that I think that very human impulse to not only explore and try new things, but could things be better? Or how could they be better? Or
mm,
do I have it within myself, right, to push into something even better, or better for
yeah,
my kids, or better for my community as
mm,
I push in and find some of that core steel, um, that I think is timeless, right?
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, and passing it on. I mean, it is
Yeah.
timeless.
Hmm.
It
Hmm.
continues. We get it for it's like what do they call it? The relay race where they hand off the baton to the next person and then they
Right?
get it and they run as fast as they can and then at the end of it they hand it off. It's a relay
Yes.
race, I guess.
Yes. I'm just always very grateful that I get the 21st century version and not the like get on the boat in Germany and sail for 4 months to get to the America leg of things. I don't, yeah.
Yeah.
Some of us have been luckier than others, I guess.
Well, and I don't know. I think we still have, their hardships, they look super hard to us now, but I'm sure they look super hard to them then too,
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
we're gonna do what? Do what? Explore? Who's in charge of this? Which are you sure that's the direction? We're out in the middle of the ocean. You can't see any, it's I mean I can't
Right.
help but think that it was hardship for them too. But yeah.
Yeah. Yes. Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah. There's that momentum. Was there anything else you wanted to revisit right now before we try and look for other rabbit holes? Any of the
No,
things we've
let's
talked
find
about?
another one to go down. Yeah, that was fun.
Yeah. Well, and I don't know. I'm trying to link them together, any of them. Well, the only other thing, well, I haven't thought of anything else yet. I guess we can do another question. But when I think about our ancestors and I think about the momentum and how we still have it, I
Hmm.
guess it still takes courage. You know, even
Yeah.
because I was telling you about my 48 state trip,
Hmm.
contiguous states, and and everybody I tell they get half the picture. They're like, man, that's the greatest thing. The freedom, the open road, seeing all the states. You get to see the national parks, whatever. They go in all different directions. Some of them say all of those things. And it's like the three blowouts, the time you don't have any more money and you're stuck in the national forest, the time the truck breaks down and you can't figure out why, the time
Yeah.
that, and lastly, the time the RV is stuck and the tow truck company says, we don't travel out that far, figure it out for your
Yeah.
roadside service for Geico. It's like, okay, there's a shadow behind adventure or something that
For
I
sure.
have discovered.
Yes. Yes, absolutely. Those yeah, or you we did a cross country road trip one time and had I have twins and the twins were two and were just potty trained,
Wow.
and so
Okay.
being trapped in the car on long stretches across like Iowa with with little kids that needed the potty quite often, is like, oh, whose idea was this? Like, we were not ready, right? Like, what
Yeah.
were we thinking? Um, but all those great stories we have
Right.
now of these hilarious times, and funny memories, and even, watching them, like, I think that's pretty fun too when you can bring your
Yeah.
kids up into it and they've got a giggle or they've got a memory of this like crazy time. Like, remember when mommy had a meltdown in Iowa on the
Yeah.
side of the road? Like,
Yeah.
yeah, okay, yeah, that happened, So,
Absolutely. Those
but
shared memories, doesn't that make memories better when everybody gets to play their part? Like, remember what you said, babe? And she's
yes.
like, I said this. It's like watching a movie almost, you
Right,
know?
right. The retelling is almost as better than the actual first time around.
Oh,
Um,
it gets better every time. What are you talking
right,
about?
right. A little flourish here and there. But I think, like, I see people when they're working through their careers, a lot of times we think about our life and our career as two separate things. But we've got those funny stories about work and our work families and friends as well, that I think when we start integrating that with, no, this is just who I am as a whole
Yeah.
person. It gets really, it gets really funny, really fun, and some crazy things can happen, or people be a little more open to some adventure or risk taking, or maybe trying something new. When they
Yeah.
see, like, okay, this could fit together, kind of just who I am.
Yeah. I like that. That you allow people to get that work on that part of their identity,
Yes,
with some help. You know,
yes,
like
yes.
what are my passions? I don't know. I sat in a cubicle all day long and typed on a computer when told to, and
Right.
forwarded and communicated and all, and I don't know who I am, so
Yeah, yeah. Well, and I was telling you, I worked in human resources, and I don't know, like, yeah, what little kid goes, oh, when I grow up, I want to be an HR lady,
yeah.
give everybody the corporate compliance, annual talk every year. Um, but there are aspects of, when I look back, my personality or those passions for people and for connection and community building were present, even in the boring, corporate compliance trainings.
Right.
Um, that that I feel like now that I'm a coach on my own, that comes out much more clear. But there were threads of that all the way through, that,
Yeah.
when I got to a, a point when I was ready, I could really lean into. And so
Hmm.
sometimes that's fun too, is seeing, looking back and going, oh yeah, this was really present, forever.
Yeah. Yeah. Wow. I had a couple other things to I was thinking about. Twins. You said you had twins. I'm
Yeah.
fascinated with twins. I'm fascinated. I'm not a twin. I'm an oldest child, but I had a buddy who I interviewed on my podcast, but I met with him in real life because he was in Connecticut when we were traveling in that part of the country. I
Uh-huh.
met with him in real life, and I was like, man, you gotta let me know. I don't know anything about twins. He was like, yeah, you always say it was the other brother. You always say you didn't do it. Eh, Everybody, they don't, I don't know. It's like not really, not malicious. It's just playful. And like dad's like, I told you the other day to grab that for me. He's like, you must have told Paul, or whatever, and so you don't have to remember anything. You're never accountable. He's the dearest kind of guy. He's the
That is
nicest guy,
hilarious. Yeah.
but he gave me the inside scoop, and I'm not calling him out. Actually, I didn't use any names appropriately,
Their
but
poor mother. putting up with all that, all those shenanigans. Yeah, right?
Tell
Yes.
me, does mom know what's going on all the time and just play along or what?
Well, my twins are not identical. They're very, very different from each other.
Oh, okay, okay.
So they've never really looked alike, looked identical, and their personalities are super different. So I always knew yeah, who was
Oh
up to
yeah,
something. Yeah,
yeah.
and pulling their other sisters into the mess. So yeah,
Ooh,
they
that's a
couldn't
whole
get away
other
with all
area.
that. Yeah.
The female twins.
Yes. Yes. So they are and I didn't really have twins in our family are really uncommon. And my husband and I thought, when they're little, and they still do this, they're freshmen in college, a bit, but they acted more like a old married couple than sisters sometimes. Like one
Oh,
would,
wow.
yeah, like one was kind of forgetful. She's a little artistic. Um, and the other one would keep her organized or remember you got to get this and take that with you. And the
Huh.
artistic one's social, so she'd pull her out. And so it was really funny, but then they would bicker like they were little 80-year-olds that had been married for 100 years. So funny. I don't know what it'll
Wow.
be like when they actually find partners. But yeah, that'll feel
Yeah,
familiar or what?
it's like they're two separate parts of the same person almost, it sounds like to me.
Yes, yes. Well, and then we had, they were probably like 10 or 11. And we were on vacation, and one of them spent the night in Grandma and Grandpa's room, and we realized that was literally the first time they had been apart from each other. So they'd been apart from us, but not apart from each other. I'm like,
Wow.
that is weird. That's wild,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Yeah.
Everybody needs personal space, not them,
Not
you
them.
know?
They're always together, wearing matching clothes.
Wow. Thank you for satisfying my curiosity a little bit. Oh my gosh. And yeah, so the other thing I thought of was like transitions because that's what you do, like transition
Mhm.
people. I mean, we're all in, if you want to zoom out, we're all in all kinds of transitions all
Yeah.
the time. In this moment, whether I'm transitioning, I mean, I could just throw down pretty much any word and it would be a way we're transitioning, even in this second.
Yeah.
My health,
Yeah.
the temperature in the room,
Yeah.
my attention span. Um, yeah, diminishing returns on medicine, on different things that affect my moods. I'm like my body is like in 100 transitions all by itself, probably.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah. Well, and I think, yeah, it's really important when we think about, I work with people who are in a career transitions, and a lot of
yeah.
times they haven't, they haven't chosen to have a transition. They've been laid off or downsized or their
Mm,
job moves or something bad happens and they're kind of thrust into that transition. And I find it really interesting how people handle those moments. Is it, um, I think some people get a little stuck or kind of maybe stuck like in grief
mm,
for what could have
right.
been or would have been, and others want to move on really fast, and they maybe skip over some of that those feelings before they move, and I think it's just interesting and hard how we deal with that kind of that need to reimagine. Then what does my future look like? What does this mean? Who am I? Right? Moments that
Yeah,
um, can we take advantage of those pauses and really, sit in some of that for a minute to figure it out? Or is it too uncomfortable and we need to hurry up and move on or get back? I was thrown out of the frying pan. I want to get back as soon as possible. And get those
Yeah.
too.
Wow. There's just so much in common with grief counseling and career
Yeah, yeah,
counseling.
yeah. I think so. I think so because it is that those losses of identity, right? Or those pieces of your identity. And coming to grips with that. That's why I think it's important to know, you know, besides who your what your job title is, who are you? Are you a people
Yeah.
leader? Are you a connector? Are you a community builder? What are those traits that really transcend job title, industry,
Yeah.
geography? um, that's important as we hit these big life transitions, but
Yeah.
career is part of that. Yeah.
Yeah. I was watching a video and it was the lady was talking about, no, I don't want to know what your job is. Who are you?
Yeah.
And I feel like most people would be like, I am the person holding this pen. I am, you
Don't
know,
know. Like, that is a really hard question,
yeah.
right?
And
Yeah.
it used to be a joke. Where are you don't know where you are? Put your hand on your head. You're under your hand, right? It used to be a joke. It's real now.
Yeah. Yeah. Yes. Well, and I think when we have those things stripped away, that it becomes those moments of, can cause some dread or some these soul searching moments of, yeah, what am I all about? And could
Yeah.
I do that in a different way? If my job gets pulled away, am I still that person? Am I still a people leader? Am I still uh, you know, analytical or whatever? Um,
Yeah. Do I still got the chops? Am I,
yeah,
yeah,
yes.
am I who I used to be? Am I still that person or am I somebody different?
Hmm.
And,
Hmm.
when I think about it that way, I start thinking about my wife has been talking about a book she's reading, and thank goodness it's her because I don't remember the name of it. But she was like, you put by by your actions, you put votes in like a bucket
Mm,
for who you want to be. So,
yes.
me
Okay.
and her, we've started running, and we're up to 3 miles. We've been running now for a year on a couch
Wow.
from a couch to 5K program,
Uh-huh.
and we ran a 5K again, and she's like, I'm putting votes. She gets up in the morning. She doesn't want to run with me. And she's like, I'm putting votes in the bucket that I'm a runner. And,
Yeah.
that's probably the way she says it too. And it's like, but she is.
Yeah.
She has
Yeah.
enough votes in the bucket that you're a runner. It's got to be more
Right.
than one, probably, for most
Uh-huh.
things, right? But you're putting votes in the buckets by what you do. Well, I'm making coffee cups. I guess I'm a
Mhm.
potter. You know,
Yeah.
what
Uh-huh.
do you think about that?
I love that idea. I really love that idea. Yeah. Well, and I think there's the putting the vote, kind of choosing your identity, but also there's that onus of like, well, I get to decide where my vote goes, right?
Oh, I love that.
Am
Mm-hmm.
I a runner or am I a sleep inner today? Right? Like I'm determining that. And I think that that's super powerful when we realize, because often we feel like we don't have a lot of choice in who we are, right?
Yeah.
Like I just kind of have to go along. I have to work this job. I have to do this thing. People keep telling me I have to raise my kids. I guess I do need to do that one, but you know, but that conscious choice of who are you going to be? Who do you want to show up to be is really, it really does belong to you.
Yeah. Well, and I think a lot of people they feel like, and this has been my experience, that they don't have enough votes to
Yeah.
know. Like, well, I need at least
Yeah.
100 votes before I can consider myself and tell
Right.
people that I'm a world traveler,
Right.
or I
Right.
have to have this many votes. And I think the number is a lot lower than people think it is.
I agree. I agree. Yeah, I see that. Or I can call myself a professional at this or an expert at this because there's and maybe this is where comparison comes in too. There's somebody
Mm,
better or I'm not as good as my neighbor. Um and and so then again that diminishes like, oh, maybe I don't have a whole vote to throw in the bucket. It's just half a vote. And kind of steals some of our power um, through that
mm,
comparison.
yeah. Well, and then I think we're circling back around to perspective, and you get somebody come around and say, that's a lot of votes. Like,
Right.
I think you can safely call yourself a whatever it is, a world
Yeah.
traveler now, right?
Uh-huh.
Um,
Uh-huh.
you have a lot of votes in there. You're like, well, really, you think that's a lot? That is a lot. I have one vote in that bucket. You have
Right.
thousands. You've got a lot. But some reason like you said, we don't count them fairly for ourselves sometimes.
It's hard to have perspective on yourself, right? Yeah, it's hard to see it for yourself.
Yeah,
Or I think especially if we're like, well, I'm a runner, but I want to run um, 6K instead of 5K, and so then maybe I'm not as good, right? Like, or I want to do this
yeah.
or that instead, and yeah, I think we get caught in that with our day to day. I see that in my clients too, who are like, well, I don't earn as much as I want to, or I don't have this job title, or my brother, has this and I don't have that. I'm like, do you even want
Mm,
it? Like what are you doing? And so
mm.
kind of being able to pull back and really look at things objectively. And I think that's where coaches come in, different lens to point out, like, well, my goodness, surely you have skill in this. Surely you have enough votes in this bucket. What do we do with it? Like, how do we make a
Mm.
splash with it? Um, that can be liberating for people, really freeing from
Yeah,
those comparisons or that, well, I've been told my whole life I should do this or that. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. That perspective is so
Hmm.
valuable. And I mean, that's why we have coaches. That's why we have all different kinds of coaches. And,
Yeah.
sometimes their perspective is a little harsh, like a football coach, and other times their perspectives are just absolutely fun and engaging. And, everybody's laughing like right now in this podcast,
Hmm.
sometimes it's like that. You,
Yeah.
you can't pick and choose, you face it. You
Yeah.
face those
Yeah.
votes.
Yeah.
So I was think oh, go ahead. Did you have something else to say?
Nope.
Another
Nope.
rabbit hole? Okay. Well, man, just so many good things to talk about. I'm going back to my list that I'm writing over here.
All right.
Um, I'm thinking about the art. Well, I was thinking about comparison and how,
Yeah.
I mean, I'm going to throw the word destructive out there. How destructive it is. People are like, well, you compare yourself to your past self, and then you can be grateful. And I can understand and get behind that part. But, like, by
Hmm.
and large, for me, comparison has not ever helped me. It
Hmm.
gives me
Hmm.
perspective. It gives me a different perspective, maybe. Maybe that's the way I can make perspective by myself, is comparing myself to other people. I don't know. What do you think?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, maybe. I think it's hard to, um, I think it's hard to keep your joy, keep gratitude in your heart when you're looking at others, when you're really examining their lives. And so I think like that, that steals some of our joy,
Yeah.
to and pulls that focus in a I don't have this or I'm not doing this instead of the abundance, right, that I am doing. Um, and so, I think it's a fine line, right? Comparison to what we were talking about, like how do you get inspiration from someone or want to live up to a certain ideal, um, without getting bogged down of, oh, I'm just never going to get there. Um,
Yeah.
yeah, I don't know. Is it keeping focused on our uniqueness and that, yeah, we're never going to be like our neighbor because they're a totally different person. Like you
Wow.
cannot, right? Like you got to be you.
Wow.
I don't know. What do you think? Is that right?
Oh yeah. I mean, as I was thinking, as soon as I said it, I was thinking, gratitude is the answer to this.
Yeah,
Gratitude.
yeah,
Because as you're right, as you look at who you are, even to the cells of your body, to the specific things you like and don't like, you're not to what you see in the mirror, you're not like anybody else that
yeah,
you have ever known
yeah.
or will ever know, right?
Uh-huh.
Maybe it cycles through, maybe somebody looks like you in a million years. I don't know. I'm not going to be there. I haven't been here for a million years. Uh, People can look alike. I've run into that. Doppelgangers are out there, but at the same time, like nobody is you
Yeah,
all the way down. And there's so much to be grateful for. Like, take a breath. That's something to be grateful for.
yeah. Well,
Hear
I think
hear something.
appreciating
Go ahead.
that other person too, right? For what who they are and what they bring to the world,
Yeah,
without, diminishing them or taking away from them,
yeah.
too. Yeah. Like
Like,
even my
go ahead.
twins, they're, same same DNA, exact same upbringing, and they are radically different people, right? So I think that it just kind of kills me. Um, of course,
Yeah.
we're really different from each other, right? We're unique, and thank God, thank God for that, right?
Well, maybe what is it? Let's go back to that picture. What does it look like if instead of, oh my gosh, they got the promotion, I'm so jealous of them, to, you know what? I'm thankful that that person could show me how to get promoted. I'm so thankful, and it almost sounds trite to think of it like that, but it's like I'm grateful to the level of, that person is there and I'm here. And because if I was up there, I wouldn't be ready and I'd be scared and anxious all the time. But then how I've also heard that jealousy can be a roadmap. It shows you where you want to
Mm,
go in some way. Now, of course, you can't be them, right? We're different, but you can emulate some of the things that some of their good character traits, for instance, or something like that, you know?
yeah, yeah, I think that's right. And also if we're coming at life with a lens of abundance, it's it's
Oh,
not just
abundance.
one path, right? Like there's one promotion and we get caught up. There's one promotion, the other person got it, so there are no promotions for me. And that's just not true, right? That when we stop and look around, we actually have lots and lots and lots of options and an abundance of options. And it's our lack of creativity to see it, right?
Yeah.
And so I think sometimes we get stuck in that, like, I am not making it in this very narrow channel that I'm in. And therefore, my life is a wreck. And it's like, well, what about the open pasture over here that we're ignoring? Like, do we want to explore that a little bit? um
Yeah.
what might that offer? And finding those options, that are there. They are there
Yeah.
for everyone. Yeah.
This is what you do. This is what you do all day long, right? It's like you see this time and time and time again. You're like, hey, I mean, in your own way, I'm sure in a very wonderful, fun way, you're like, look, look at the right fields that are ready for you over here.
Right.
Just look
Right.
over there for a second. Like, you got options, you got
Yeah. Yeah.
opportunities, you
Mhm.
know.
Mhm.
But I
Right.
found that in life too, all the way
Yeah.
across is in my worst moment. You can go back now that I'm a little bit older. I can go back in my life, revisit memories, look around a little bit, and I'm like, huh, there's not as much pressure in here as I
Right.
remember. Wow, I could have run that way. I could have did this. I had options that
Mhm.
I didn't see in that moment.
Yeah.
But now I see. I'm
Yeah.
sorry. Go ahead. What do
Yeah,
you think?
absolutely. Absolutely. And I talked to, I just had a client last week and she was so down and discouraged. And we kind of it took a minute to get to the root of what it was. And she just felt very stuck. I'm just
Hmm.
stuck. I have to do this job. It's always going to be like this. And to the
Yeah.
point where I'm like, you're just really believing a lie. That's a lie. You're a skilled, wonderful worker with tons of stuff to offer. You think this is the only job that is available to you. Like, is that what you think? And she's like, oh, that sounds kind of crazy. I'm like, yeah, it is. Yeah. Like, okay, okay. So let's say no to that lie and find out what are those options. Some are appealing, some are maybe less appealing, but let's find out what those are. And even just some of the liberation that comes with realizing I don't have to be stuck. Like, I really don't have to be stuck. There are lots of
Hmm.
lots of options, and people to help, and who want to help when you feel like that too.
Yeah.
It can be really freeing. Yeah.
Yeah. Stuck. You know, I had to think back or think around in my life and think of the times that I felt really stuck.
Hmm.
And every time it wasn't very long till I realized that I wasn't stuck. It was like
But did
the
it
opening to
feel
the
like,
door of a new freedom.
yeah, did it feel in the moment though? You feel like, oh my God, I've been like this for, 100 years, like 70 years. I've been sitting here, and you're like, oh, or 2 weeks, right? Like, hmm,
Yeah. Well,
yeah.
I can take you to exactly when it was. Well, the most recent one because we were driving on our trip 48 contiguous states,
Uh-huh.
and and Jill's in charge of the budget and the finances, and she's like, well, after that last repair on the truck, we are at this point in our credit. We're going to bypass now the minimum payment's going to go up and it's going to bop it out of its spot in the budget, et cetera, et cetera. The world will end and we will all die. No, she didn't say that. But for me, it was like, I mean, I'm retired and disabled. What else am I supposed to do? And I
Uh-huh.
felt trapped and like you're crying these burning tears, thinking about I don't have any options, and you feel that way. But like that feeling for me led to like credit's just a made up thing,
Hmm.
and that's where I go to Thailand. I am planning on paying them off, so I didn't go that way, but I was like, you know what? We
You're
can
not
go live where
absconding to
there's
Thailand. You're gonna take care of your debt and then
that's my
responsibly go
debt
to
that's my
Thailand.
debt payoff plan. Go to
Yeah.
Thailand, live on a fraction of my fixed income and pay off the debts that I accrued because adventure has a cost. Usually
Uh-huh.
you pay up front and you get your 1 week at Disneyland or something. For us, it was a pay as you go plan as
Yeah.
stuff broke.
Yeah. 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 Well, and I love that too because sometimes when life takes a big detour like that through the unexpected, you you learn things about yourself, you meet new people, you see things that you would have never really had the opportunity to know, had you not, and it is easier years later to look back and go, oh, that wasn't so bad. These good things came out of it. But yeah, harder to remind yourself that no, this is temporary. There's there's probably some good stuff in here as we go, um,
Yeah.
as it's happening.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, it just keeps coming back. It
Yeah.
keeps filling me up, and to see and to come up with a plan, and you got new freedom, and you've moved to the transition, and that moment's over, and then I'm starting to even appreciate and having gratitude for being stuck
Yeah. Yeah.
because it changed my whole worldview.
Uh-huh.
Maybe it added another perspective, or maybe it widened my perspective, but I saw the whole world differently after
Hmm.
that moment of being stuck.
Yeah. Fascinating. Yeah. That's great. That's great.
Well, thank you. What do you think? Yeah, so well, you said some words. I was going to ask you, what do you think about it? But you're telling me what you think. So I'm going to move to, I love the topic of abundance. I talked about trapped. Um, yeah, abundance. Oh, and that's where it's so easy to be grateful from my perspective because,
Yeah.
well, there was an activity I had in a book called The Artist's Way, which I'll throw it a plug because it changed my life during the time that I worked through it. But it had this activity in it that you go out and look for 10 pretty rocks. And I'm
Hmm.
like, and I went out and there was just like a gravel parking lot and there was rocks everywhere. And I was like, and I was looking at the nuances. I was taking this activity very seriously, looking at the nuances of the little pieces of gravel and looking at it. I'm like, well, I like the way that one has like a little triangle on it, and I was just seeing stuff. And then I realized there's a whole field of these. I mean, I couldn't scoop them all up for free, but I could take them one at a time if I wanted. And I was
Yeah.
like, there's so much here,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah. Right. That's that's a great story. Yeah, that's a great story. Well, and I think my my youngest daughter when she was little, she would she's very dramatic. And she would come in, she's like 4 or 5, and she'd just be like, the hand forehead, like, ugh, I just, I'm spent from the hard day of coloring books and snacks, right?
Yeah.
And and we would play this game, right? She would do the oh, I'm just on empty, right? And I go, let me make some love, and I'd rub my hands together. Let me make some love and fill you up. And I was thinking about that the other day. I'm like, we really, like, I was so depressed watching the news. And I was like, oh, we just need to be more creative about going out and just making some more love, right? Like, we have joy and love and peace we can offer in abundance. Like, there is not a finite amount of love and joy in the world. And so I just was like, oh, yeah, okay, we just need to spread it around a little more. Um, and I
Yeah.
think, it's infectious when you're around other people that think like that. I want to be around them all the time, right? Like, that's inspiring to me. I want to be like that. And it's just so much easier to sleep at night,
Yeah.
with a little attitude adjustment. Yeah, yeah, for sure.
Wow, it sounds like you're catching yourself really quick there, right?
Yeah,
You're like, give somebody a little love, like you didn't
you
even
gotta
go
make
down it.
some
You're like, I know what's down that road. I don't want to go down there. I'm gonna give some more love out
love.
instead.
Right,
You know.
I gotta like get some more hugs in before I read the next news article. Yeah, right.
Wow, you're
Yeah.
gonna be hugging a lot if you're
I
reading
can
the
be
same
hugging
news
a
as me.
lot. I love videos of like puppies and little kids and creatures, and I think, oh, Yep. We gotta salt that in.
Well, and as an option, you could listen to podcasts where you laugh a lot and have enjoy the conversation.
That's
This one,
right.
no, whatever. Shameless
Laughter is the
plug.
best medicine, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
well, and that reminds me of a story, and this is, well, as rabbit holes are, completely unrelated to anything. We were working, I have an RV repair guy who's a friend, and me and him were working on the outside of my RV. And we're just sitting there working. He's got a screwdriver. I'm like, got some more tools to hand him or something. My wife has some headphones on, and the screen door's open, and she comes right by singing a song, like carefree, missing notes, the most and just to go through the story before I expound on that, it's like Keith, she's screwing on something, and he just turns around and looks at me with the weirdest look, like what is going on, right? He was like, that is, it's kind of like this look that says, that is the sweetest thing I have ever heard in my entire life. And since, and then and then he kind of, we talk about it because I'll work with him sometimes on other people's RVs. And he said, hey, as long as it keeps Jill singing, you keep doing it, right? That's her name. But,
That's awesome.
isn't that a
That's
wonderful
awesome.
memory? Like,
Yeah,
wow.
and so lovely that he, unrelated to Jill, he could just really appreciate that moment. Um,
Yeah.
yeah, my I know an older lady, and she says, when you sing like that, she always go, "Ooh, they're singing for Jesus." Yeah, it's like, yeah,
Well,
he likes it all, right?
I'm detecting there might be a little bit of like she was really off. She wasn't really off. She was just singing completely authentic. So it
Joyfully,
wasn't even like that's terrible. It was like, and I
she's
told her
so
about later.
happy.
She blushes and she's like, "You guys were listening?" And I'm like, "We were working right outside the door or whatever." But yeah, yeah,
Right.
she really,
That's awesome. That's awesome. Well, she was
yeah.
bringing joy. She was making joy.
Right. Well, and it's, especially for him, like he had in the last year, he lost like this is terrible. Sorry, I'm going to warn you in advance. He lost like his home. Then shortly after that, he's lost his wife. Like, and then, he's 50 in his 50s, and it was like he's still trying to make it work. He's fixed his house back
Yeah.
up after the tornado. He's taking steps. I work side by side with him sometimes. And, for him, it's like, and then guess what he talked about? The next time we talked, he was like, man, I got to get some new clothes to go dancing. So he can go out there and start looking again.
That's awesome.
I mean,
Awesome.
you don't even
Yeah.
know the effect
Yeah.
of,
Yeah.
Jill mindlessly singing could affect
Yeah.
have an effect on him, pushing him
Yeah.
forward a little bit.
Yeah. Those ripples of good that you don't know exactly who needs them, or when it's gonna what's gonna connect.
Yeah,
Um, yeah, but if we keep rippling that out, then you know whoever needs it'll get it, right?
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. It hits the right people at the right time. Yeah, I
Yeah.
have a
Yeah.
saying. That reminds me of a saying that I have. The patient man gets exactly what he wants at exactly the right time.
Lovely. Lovely. Yeah.
I was stuck behind a guy at a stop sign or stoplight. It was a stoplight, and they went green, and I was like, he's not going. It
Uh-huh.
went back to red, and I was like, usually I've reformed a lot, I guess. I would usually have a very opinionated and loud reaction to something like that. In addition, percussion of my horn going. And this time I was like, where do I have to go? What do I have to
Uh-huh.
do? You
Yeah.
know what? And then I thought, I'm going to get a green light if I wait long enough, you know?
Right.
And it
It will
turned it
be
all
your time.
around.
Yeah. Yeah. That's awesome. My old roommate, whenever I'm in those moments, I can hear her voice and she'll say, "They're waiting for their invitation to come in the mail." And you're like, "Yeah, they're sitting there waiting for their invitation." Yep. Like,
Well,
okay.
yeah. Wow.
Fun. Fun.
Yeah.
Great rabbit holes, Aaron. This has been
Well,
really fun.
good. Thank you. Yeah, it's just been so much fun for me. I mean, I can't stop.
Good.
Getting to know people getting to know people that I already kind of knew a lot better,
Yeah.
and then being able to replay conversations and notice like how to make myself a better listener,
Hmm.
and things I
Hmm.
wanted to ask them, so I need to call them and actually talk to them and ask them about that. And so it's just been so much fun for me.
That's
But thank you
cool.
so much for joining me today, Stacey.
Yeah, thanks for having me. This is great. Yeah, and now I'm like one of the crew. Yeah?
Yeah. Oh yeah, you
Okay.
get promoted. I haven't told anybody
All
this
right.
on the podcast, but once you're my guest, you get promoted. So you are an
Okay.
official digger, and you're going to get
Oh,
stickers and to proudly place wherever
awesome.
you want to display your rank. And
Okay.
yeah, well, and
Awesome.
also thank you to all the listeners as well for paying attention and for checking in and for listening in on our conversation. We hope it helps. I mean, that's what we hope
Yeah,
all the way down. I can say that easily from Stacey and from me.
absolutely.
So, see you again next week. Thank you. Bye.